Welcome to Simplify to Scale, a show dedicated to helping you scale a high impact and high profit business that you love without all of the complexity and chaos that can keep you trapped in the day-to-day. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and with decades of scaling experience, I know what actually works and what's just hype. So if you are done with all of the one-size-fits-all scaling advice and all of the overnight success promises, and instead you want proven practical strategies that will help you simplify operations, elevate your leadership, amplify profits, and scale sustainably, let's dive in and get started. When we look in retrospect back at some of the decisions that we make in our life, it becomes really apparent where we were at a fork in the road and we took a path that either had a significant impact on our life in a positive way, or we took a fork in the road that really pulled us off course from who we really are and what we really want to be doing. And this is something, as I'm in my own personal identity evolution, my own business evolution, I've been reflecting on a lot lately. And so this is a little behind the scenes and a personal share from me about three of the big ones that I noticed had a big impact on the decisions that I made and how I can see they brought me here. And I believe all roads eventually lead us to where we need to go. And so there were some detours and some kind of messy roads along the way that I needed to be on for one reason or another to get to this place that I'm at right now. So I don't tend to look at things with a place of regret. I don't tend to look at the things from a place of woulda, coulda, shoulda. I try to just look at them from a place of, okay, I could see where I made a decision that if I got to go back and do it all over again, I would have made a different one. But there was some lesson in that or some part of that I needed to experience in order to get to where I am today and in order to get to where I'm going next. So the three that jump out at me, the very first one is if you listen to the episode that I shared where I took you behind the scenes of a lot of what's been happening for me over this past 18 plus months and what led to some of the changes that I'm making, I had shared several things in there. And one of them that I shared is how much of the compromises that we tend to make when we're in a relationship with someone else, whether it's a partner in your personal life, whether it's a partner in your business, whether it's even the team that you're working with, whether it's the programs that you're a part of, we tend to make decisions when we know that they're going to influence other people, sometimes that are different than the decisions that we would make when we're 100% making those decisions for ourselves and they don't have an impact on anyone else. And so I was reflecting in that episode on a few of those. And I think one of the biggest things, one of the biggest shifts in me that took me off of my personal path that I would have probably been on somewhere differently was the decision to have my ex-husband at the time join me in my jewelry business. And I had been scaling this business. I had really always wanted a partner in the business. There's things that I personally really love to do. There's things I don't love to do. I've never loved the whole sales side of things. And I wanted someone to come in and be able to manage the wholesale side of the business, being able to form partnerships and relationships with the different boutiques and stores that would carry our brand, someone who could work with our manufacturing partners. So I could stay more in the creative space and I could do what I did best and what I loved most. And so he came into the business as a partner with me for a period of time. We didn't stay partners for very long in it. He came in, I think, more to help me out, realized it wasn't really for him. He wanted to do something different. But there were a lot of really positive things of him coming in and being a partner in the business. One of them being he is a phenomenal photographer, like one of the best photographers I've ever seen. His work is exceptional. And the two of us worked really well together where I would have the creative design and I would do like the direction of the creativity from a styling perspective, from a location perspective, from a mapping out the shot list and the vibe and what I was looking for the jewelry. And then he would both take the photos, he would edit the photos, he would help build the sets. I mean, we did like full-blown set design and everything. And so it ended up being a really beautiful combination in that way. We both got to do what was our pure strength. I got to do the design, I got to do the styling, I got to be in the creative space. He took care of a lot of the photos and the creation of a lot of the brand assets. And it just ended up being a beautiful combination in so many ways. But where it ended up not being a good combination is, as I shared, I am very woo. I'm very kind of spiritual by nature. I designed most of my jewelry specifically with really deep meaning. I selected the gemstones that I selected for their healing properties and their spiritual and metaphysical properties. And everything I did was so deeply based on that. And he was the exact opposite. He was completely the opposite. He did not believe in any of that. And he did not want his name associated with a brand that positioned anything in that way. And so it ended up being a decision point where it was, does he stay in the brand and I strip all of this out of it? Or does he not stay in the brand and I continue to do what I've always done? And I made the decision because I could see the strengths of us together. I didn't have the time to do all of it. At the time, I wasn't in a place financially to really bring someone on to do some of the pieces that he had been doing. So I ended up stripping out a lot of the meaning behind the jewelry to me. And what I did not realize in that decision was that that went so far beyond what was on my website. From taking zodiac jewelry off the site, from taking the different meanings of gemstones and why I designed pieces and the story and the inspiration behind the pieces, by stripping so much of that out of the brand and out of the business. First of all, it kind of lost so much of what made the brand, and that was really unfortunate. But beyond that, it made me disconnect from the brand because that was my catalyst and my reason for creating most of what I created. Every single thing I designed had a deep meaning to me behind it. And as soon as I stopped being able to talk about that, as soon as I stopped being able to focus on that, the brand didn't feel like mine anymore, and I didn't feel as connected to the jewelry. And I'm sure that that had an impact on how other people energetically connected to it as well. But as soon as I shut off that like one piece of myself from the jewelry, because that was so much of what I did, it was like who I was at my core. I lived and breathed that business. I lived and breathed the design and the creativity, and I poured so much of myself into it that as soon as I shut that off in the brand, I actually fully shut that off in myself. It became years and years and years, and then probably more than a decade, maybe even longer, that I didn't really do anything in the woo space whatsoever. I stopped doing my Reiki. I stopped going to and experiencing some of the classes and working with some of the people that I had done. I stopped researching a lot of the meaning of gemstones. I stopped collecting gemstones. I mean, I have a ton of rocks, so I never really stopped collecting rocks, but in the way that I had before, I stopped a lot of that. And really what I did was I kind of shut off a key part of who I am as a person. And there's that quote, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I find that to be very true for myself. And so because I had shut it off within the container of my business, I ended up shutting it off within the container of me as a person and my life. And I felt very disconnected from everything. It was probably the least I felt like myself in most of my life. And I don't think I fully consciously recognized what I was doing or the impact that it was having. And even after my husband left the brand, I had at that point felt so disconnected from it all that I never even put it back in. And so that was one of those decisions where I can clearly see a fork in the road where it seemed like a simple decision in the moment, right? He was part of a brand. I was talking about something he was personally not comfortable with. And so I said, okay, fair, right? If he's going to be a partner in the business, then I can't represent something that he doesn't believe and make sense. Sure. And like I logicked my way into a decision that my feelings did not align with. And I don't know if you you ever do that, that is something I'm very good at doing. I'm great at justifying. I'm great with using my analytical and logical mind to talk myself into something that intuitively I know is not the right decision for me or not a good fit or aligned for me. And so that was one of those cases where I did that. And it ended up having a really big impact on so much more than just the decision in that business at that moment. And so if you take a moment and pause and think about, is there anything where you've done that, where you've made something that seemed like a compromise in the moment, but where you can recognize it actually had all of these ripple effects and such a big influence beyond just that localized decision? Think about what that is, or maybe you're facing one of those decisions right now, and how can you shift that? So that was one decision. Now, there was another. I had at one period of time started working within this company that I did not particularly enjoy being in. I didn't like working with the company. I didn't like working with the people. It wasn't a great fit for me, but it made sense at the time. This, of course, was when my husband was full-time in the jewelry business, and I was still doing my consulting with Fortune 500. I'd always done that on the side. And I had taken this one particular role because the pay was really great. And I had done it because I thought that it would allow us to invest in the collection that I was working on. And it wasn't a great fit overall. I shouldn't have said yes to it. But I got into the company, and one of the things was everything in the building was scented. And I am severely allergic to scents. Any kind of synthetic fragrance, it kills me. Like I get really, really, really triggered by it to the point that I will end up with a cold, and then I'll end up with a sinus infection, and then I'll end up sometimes with actual pneumonia from it. Like I have a severe reaction to scents. If anybody ever comes to my home, I always ask that they not wear perfumes or colognes. I hate doing that, but I know just the impact that it has on me. So I tend to be very careful with being around any kinds of scents. And there was something in this building. I don't know if it had been mold in the building or something, but there was some kind of scent that was putting me in a state where I was getting sick a lot. And in the women's ladies' room, they had one of those air fresheners that used to go off all the time. And it was like the worst smell ever. I don't understand why anybody puts these things in bathrooms, first of all, but I know some people do. But this particular one was like such a cloying scent to it that not only did it smell bad, but it lingered. Like it made my clothes smell. It made my bag smell. I kept having to throw out things. I kept having to wash things over and over again because I could not get rid of the smell. And it was so like just embedded in everything in me that it kept making me sick and kept making me sick. And one of the things I noticed is when I eat really healthy, when I'm really like at my peak health, I notice scents and fragrances. I'm sensitive to certain foods much more so. When I'm not, when I'm kind of eating like garbage, when I'm just kind of whatever, not in the healthiest state, it doesn't bother me as much. I'm naturally very sensitive, but the more healthy I am, the more sensitive I am. The less healthy I am, the less sensitive I am. And so again, looking back, I can see what I did. In the moment, I didn't make a conscious decision to say, you know what, forget all my healthy habits. I'm just going to become less healthy so that it doesn't bother me as much. Nobody consciously would do that. But I felt so miserable and so like defeated and so kind of trapped in that scenario. And I tried everything. I mean, we took the air fresheners down off the wall. Like we did all sorts of stuff to try to do it. And I just never felt good there. It also wasn't a good place for me. Like it was not good work. I didn't like the client. There was nothing I really enjoyed about that. I should have recognized that as a sign to leave. But in the moment, it was like, we've got this big collection coming, and this is how I'm going to fund it. And so it kind of made sense. And I didn't see the options available to me that I could so clearly see now looking back. This was probably about 20 years ago now. And I ended up compromising on a lot of different things. It was when I ended up gaining a lot of weight. It was when my health took a turn for the worse. It was when all of these different things happened. And I was just so kind of like defeated by all of it that I kind of stopped doing some of my healthy habits. And over time, if you've ever experienced this or struggled with your health or your weight or anything in the past, I think you know how hard it can be sometimes to put those healthy habits in place and how quick and easy and like rapid it can be to unwind them and fall back into patterns that are very unhealthy. And I fell into patterns that were unhealthy really quickly. And you know what? I wasn't as sensitive to the building anymore. It didn't bother me as much. And at the same time, I gained a ton of weight and I felt pretty miserable and I was super unhappy. And like, it just like when I look back, I'm like, what a bad decision. I should have just left the role entirely instead of like making these compromises that ultimately led to really big health problems long term. And, you know, really, I'm still trying to lose a lot of weight and I'm still trying to be more healthy and get those healthy habits back in the way that I had them before I stepped into that role. It was a role that was misaligned. I had every sign that it was misaligned across all of the things, and I ignored it and kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and instead compromised my decisions and ended up having consequences as a result of that. And so, again, where are you maybe compromising what you really want in a way that might have ripple effects? Or can you see how something you're not fully conscious of, but when you separate yourself and look objectively, you could be like, wait a minute, I'm not doing what I know is best for me. I'm not making the decisions or leading from the habits and the practices or even the beliefs that I know are best for me. I'm in a situation that isn't the right situation for me. And I keep thinking I'm just going to do it for a little bit longer until, right? Like these are all things I was telling myself in the moment. So can you recognize any of that for yourself? And then finally, the third, and this is a really big one. This is really big. And again, if you've not yet listened to the episode that I shared, kind of walking through my own journey and some of what I'm changing, this kind of ticks and ties it all together. So recommend you listen to that one. But I had been told for years, oh, you're an ops person. Oh, you're an ops person. And I used to push back hard against that. I was like, I'm not an ops person. I'm a visionary. Like I'm a strategist. I help people with business strategy. But often people would come to me and they'd be like, I have this vision. How do I make it real? And what I'm really, really exceptionally good at doing is helping people build the bridge between what they want and where they are now. So I can very clearly understand a vision. I can help someone get more clear on that vision and sometimes even think bigger and expand that vision. And I can help people connect specifically what their team needs to do, the structure of their business, what their offers look like. I can basically put everything in place very quickly that make that vision possible and make that vision real. It's just the way my brain works is I can naturally toggle between vision and action very easily. And I could see that bridge in the connective tissue for somebody else in business. It's something I've always done really, really well. So when you think about what people would say, they would say, oh my, I had this session with Krista and now I know exactly what to do. I have a clear plan. My team now knows what to do. I just designed my business model. I have my offer suite now. Now I'm really clear on what this looks like. And so a lot of the experiences that people would have, it was all very transformational. It was clarity of vision and clarity of path forward. But because of that, as I'm talking about things and I'm saying, well, I help people get clear on their business model. I help people get clear on their offer structure. I help people design their team structure. I help people work through leadership challenges. I help people design and create the strategic plan to get where they need to go. Well, I was using kind of operational speak words when really it wasn't. What I was doing was operational. It was very strategic. But what happened was I kept hearing from people, oh, you do ops. Oh, you do ops. And I'm like, I don't do ops. I don't know why they keep saying I do ops. And then finally, one day I had a conversation with someone and he was like, interesting. I see you as an ops person. And I was like, screw it. If you can't beat them, join them. I'm just going to call myself an ops person and see what happens. Like if everyone says they see me as ops, what happens if I just call myself an ops person? And what happened was my business took off like crazy. all of a sudden I fit into a nice, neat little box where what I do is kind of unique and I didn't fit into a box before. And because I didn't fit into a box, people didn't quite know what to make of me. And so I gave people a box and I put myself in it. And as soon as I did that, my business took off like crazy because all of a sudden now people knew how to describe me. They knew how to talk about me. They knew what to come to me for because in their mind, they had a vision of what ops meant. And then there was me who did those things. Great ops, go forth, and my business really did. It exploded quite a bit when I made that change in the business. But here's what's interesting. I'm not an ops person. I'm a strategist. I'm a visionary and a strategist. And so I put myself in an ops box. And it may have worked really well from a clarity and my business growth and all of that. But I pulled myself further and further and further away from the work that I actually really like to do and the work that I'm uniquely skilled at and the work that I'm best at. Because while I absolutely help people with operations, I don't do it for the love of operations. I do it because that is the means of achieving the vision. Like what I help people do is bring their vision to life. I help them achieve that incredible, beautiful, big, bold vision and dream that they have in their business. And I think I do that better than almost anyone else. It's something I've done over and over and over again across every facet of my life since I was a kid. I mean, like, that's just what fuels me, what I love to do. And so to me, operations are a means to achieving that vision. Like, it's one thing to have clarity on what the vision looks like, but if you don't understand how to get there, if you don't have the right structure or the right support around you to get there, you will never actually get there. So to me, it was the bridge. That's the bridge to the reality of the vision. But the ops isn't the part that fuels me. That's not the part that I'm so personally passionate about. I'm passionate about the achievement of the vision, about the living of the rich, fulfilled life. And as soon as I put myself in an ops box, all of a sudden I started focusing much more so on the structure and the systems. And I truly believe my lean scaling system is the solution for any small business. I think it is the best solution out there. And I say that after having experienced and used almost all of them, having clients come to me when they tried to use other ones that did not work. Like, I truly believe that what I have is the answer for small businesses. And I also recognize I don't want to be the one doing it with people. Like, I want my team to be the one working with them on it, not me. I want to work with the founder. I want to work really closely with the founder and help them become more of who they are. I want to help them become the person who could hold the level of the business that they want to get to. Like, most of us have this big vision as this thing off in the future. We're not yet that person, because to us, it's this thing in the future. So many times I would help a founder get themselves out of the day-to-day, which is what they would say they wanted so badly, and then they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. They would question who they are. They would start to question everything, because who are they if their team doesn't need them, if their clients are no longer coming to them, if the chaos that they're so used to all day long doesn't exist anymore, and they don't know what to do with themselves. It's a very disorienting place to be. They enjoy it for the first week and breathe a sigh of relief, like, oh my God, finally, this is what I've always wanted. And by week 2, they start to get a little squirrely. By week 3, they start to really have serious questioning of, what am I doing? Do I even want this? By week 5, they're usually starting fires in their own business so they could come in and fix them again, because it's so disorienting to them. And so I like helping people through that threshold transition moment. I like helping them look at, how do you make a vision and make it reality? But more importantly, how do you, as the founder, as the visionary, as the person behind that, how do you become the person that actually is the person in your vision? Like, how do you become that person now, so that when it happens, you're just naturally stepping right into it instead of fighting it and resisting it and questioning everything? And so that's what I like to do personally. Like, my brand, yes, lean scaling as a brand is absolutely the solution for small businesses. I believe that fully. It's something I've done with probably, I don't even know, thousands of businesses now. I mean, it's been so long. I don't have a count. I should probably look at that at some point, but it's definitely high hundreds, if not thousands of businesses that I've done this with now. And I know that it works. I know it's the right solution. But again, it's not what I personally want to be spending my time doing. I do not do well in an implementation or, execution space in any way, shape, or form, even strategic execution. I need to be in strategy and advisory. That is where I do best. That is what I love. That is where I shine. That is where my true genius and gifts come through. Otherwise, I'm really good at it, sure, and it drains the ever-loving life out of me. It is not what I enjoy doing in the remotest, tiniest, like there's not even a 1% piece I enjoy about it. And so I recognized this in myself. It was as soon as I took on the label that somebody else said, oh, you're an ops person. And I said, fine, can't beat them, join them, I'll be an ops person. I shifted away from what I do best. Really, what I just needed to do was figure out how to better explain what I actually do. I didn't need to just go the easy path and say, if they think I'm ops, cool, I'll call myself ops. I'm not ops. I leverage ops because ops is the solution. Like it's the path, it's the bridge, it's the means to the results that the business wants. And I know how to leverage that to get them that results. But it is not what I actually am. It's not who I am. It's not what I want. It's not where I want to be spending my personal time. And so that realization and that kind of step back from that all of a sudden opened up so many more possibilities. And you'll see a lot of that in the shifts that I'm making in the business. But at the time, I thought it was the best decision ever. If you've listened to the podcast for a long time, I think I've recorded episodes saying it was the best decision ever. Because as soon as I did that, again, I put myself in a box. People understood what I did. And all of a sudden, my business, really exploded pretty significantly. But even though it was successful on paper, even though I was making more financially, even though I was serving more people, I personally was less happy. And I personally felt less fulfilled. And what is the point of it if you don't feel good about it, if you don't feel fulfilled in it? So those are me looking back at 3 of the decisions that I made, 3 of the forks in the road that I followed that took me further from who I am, took me away from what I really want and what I need to feel like I'm feeling personally fulfilled in living a rich, fulfilled life. And how I'm now shifting a lot of that and coming back fully into who I am and what I do best and how I know that I best help clients. And I'm leveraging the incredible system that I built to support that. But I'm allowing other people who that is their passion, that is what they do best in the world, to be the ones who are partnering with my clients on that piece of it, while I'm partnering with them on the piece that I do best. In my jewelry brand, I'm bringing that back also, and it is 100% full of meaning. It is 100% full of all of the inspiration behind what I do in the most woo and magical way without holding any of that back or hiding any of that. And when it comes to me, I'm putting my health first. I am doing things that are right for me fully. And again, this is my own evolution personally and from a business perspective. And as I'm reflecting on these things, I'm sharing them here very openly and transparently. So you can hopefully see maybe some of these same patterns in yourself. I know the actual experiences are going to be different. But if you can see and recognize some of these patterns, I'm hoping that it helps you to get really clear on exactly who you are, how you can integrate all of you into your business, and how you can step into your own personal and business identity evolution. And with that, I will see you again next week. If you have any comments, if you have any thoughts, as always, head over to Substack. The link is down below in the show notes, and I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to hear your own experiences. See you next week. If you are a visionary founder ready to get yourself out of the day-to-day operations of your business and scale in a much more simple, sustainable way, I have just the thing. Register to join me for my Scale Simpler workshop at scalesimpler.com. In it, I break down the hidden barriers that keep you trapped in the day-to-day of your business and what to do to finally extract yourself once and for all so things do not keep coming back onto your plate. And if you're someone who partners with founders as their right-hand advisor, consultant, or fractional, I invite you to explore our scaling certification and licensing programs at strategicopsinstitute.com.